Okay, so story time about how my first time went wrong on Valentine's Day and my birthday, because my birthday is on February 14th. Yeah, all in one fucking day. Listen, y'all, if something super shitty happens to me, first of all, when it's my first time doing you know what, and Valentine's Day and my birthday, and it's the beginning of the fucking year, oh my gosh, I'm on demon time the rest of the year. Like, I am going to be a fucking menace to society for the rest of the year, because no, I'm just kidding. Anybody who's going through a bad time right now, you do not need to be a menace to the rest of the world, okay? It's just jokes, just jokes. Okay, anyways, let's get into today's story time. So I feel like everybody's first time doesn't really go the way that they expected to. I feel like a lot of people could say their first time gone wrong in some aspect, whether it's what you had pictured it to be or how it ended up happening, etc. But I'm gonna give you guys a little background information on my dating life, because yeah, you guys just need to know that part of the story, to be honest. So a little background information. I was 16 years old whenever this whole thing transpired, but let's rewind back to elementary school, okay? So the boy who ruined my life, we're gonna call him Elliot, okay? Elliot and I had went to preschool together, we went to elementary school together, middle school, high school, you know, all that. But during elementary school and preschool, we did not talk. I just knew that he was literally in every single class of mine because we both had the same last name, and also we were both sat right next to each other in every class because we had the same last name. And no, we did not end up becoming friends throughout all of that. If anything, we actually became enemies. We hated each other, okay? Because in 5th grade, my school had this thing called the Big Sibling Program, okay? And in the Big Sibling Program, they had different, quote, jobs that the 4th and 5th graders would do to help out the younger kids in elementary school. Whether it was tutoring or helping the lunch monitors keep the kids in check during lunch. It was honestly a super cool program. Now, I had joined this program because I wanted to be a bus safety sibling. If you don't know what that means, it basically just means that you help out the bus driver on the bus by making sure that all the kids are behaving and no one's doing any dumb shit. I was super excited about this because I had always saw all the older kids, you know, being the bus safety siblings, and they were just all in charge and stuff like that, and I thought that it was so cool, so I couldn't wait to do this. So they had too many people that were bus safety siblings in 4th grade, but whenever I got into 5th grade, I finally was able to be one. And so was this kid Elliot that was on my bus and who literally lived like right next to me. Not really right next to me, like a little bit down the street from me, but y'all get it. Now, I didn't think that him being a bus safety sibling was gonna be a problem. I didn't have any problem with this kid. Until while we were on the bus, I realized that any time that there was a problem with one of the kids and I would try to go ahead and mediate and solve the problem, he would literally interfere every time, and not in a good way. Like, for example, actually not for example, what got us fired from the Big Sibling Program was whenever one of the kids was sitting next to their sibling on the bus, and we're gonna call them sibling A and B, okay? Sibling A had punched sibling B in the head, and they were in kindergarten. So I go up there and I'm like, what happened? Because sibling B is crying, and sibling A is like, I don't know, they're just crying, blah, blah, blah. And then sibling B goes, he hit me, da, da, da. And I'm like, okay, well, sibling A, if you don't apologize and you don't stop hitting sibling B, you're gonna be sitting in a seat by yourself in the front of the bus, because this is the 3rd time that I've had to tell you to stop hitting your sibling. So then sibling A starts crying, and they're like, no, I don't want to sit by myself, blah, 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 da, da, da. And I'm like, okay, then just don't hit your sibling anymore, and you don't have to, you know. Well, then Elliot decides to be Captain Save-A-Ho, even though nobody needs fucking saved. And he comes up to the front of the bus and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, well, sibling A hit sibling B again, because this has happened a few times. But Elliot just, anytime that he did try to get involved, I would just walk away because I would let him handle the situation, because he would literally be on whatever kid's side that I wasn't on. Or it wasn't even that I was taking sides, but like whenever he came up, I was like, oh, sibling A hit sibling B again. And he was like, well, what did sibling B do for sibling A to hit them? And I look at him and I'm like, I don't don't think it matters. I think it matters about the fact that they literally just physically hit their sibling. And he was like, well, I'm just saying. And then he asked sibling B, he's like, well, what did you do? And then I start arguing with him, and him and I start yelling on the bus, which in turn is causing the kindergartners and stuff to cry. So then the bus driver tells one of our teachers and we get fired. This honestly should have been the first red flag. You know, should have never spoke to this boy after this again. Anyways, yeah, so we get fired and we low-key hated each other after this for the next 3 years, which y'all do not know how hard it is to hold a grudge against somebody for 3 fucking years when you literally always have your locker put next to them, always sat next to them, always in the same effing classes as them because your last name is the same. But you know what? As long as he held that grudge, I held that grudge, because fuck him, for real. Okay, now fast forward to 8th grade, more specifically the end of 8th grade. In our science class, we had a project that we had to do and we were assigned partners. Of course, him and I were assigned to be partners, but because it was the end of the year and we had maybe like 3 weeks left of school, there was no time to do this project in school. So our teacher said, okay, well, you guys can either stay after school to work on this, you guys can come in early in the mornings, or you guys would just have to go over each other's houses or something after school. I didn't want to be doing any of this. Not only that, but I really couldn't, to be honest, because my parents went to work super early in the morning and they didn't get home until like 5 o'clock at night. So I wasn't gonna be able to get a ride to and from school to do this project. But my best friend Kate was in the same class as me and I really wanted to work with her instead. So I went to my science teacher with Kate and I was like, hey, like, I don't really get along with Elliot. Can we please switch partners? Like, can I work with Kate instead of him, and then her partner can work with Elliot? And I wish I just would have waited to ask my science teacher, because of course I did this right after his last period, because that was the only time that I had time to stop into his class to ask him. But this class always put him in a bad mood because there was this one kid who was just always bad as hell and would always fucking roast the teacher, like every time, for no fucking reason. Like, I'm honestly pretty sure that my science teacher was so happy that the end of the year was coming, so that way this kid would literally just leave him the fuck alone. But anyways, I asked him, he's in a bad mood, and he's like, no. He's like, this is what you students don't get. He was like, in the real world, you don't get to decide who you work with and who you don't want to work with. He was like, do you think that if I don't like one of my students, I can just tell my boss and then my student will be removed from my class? No, that's not how it works. He was like, you two can find a way to get along and do this project, or you cannot do this project and get an F. And I'm like, all right, fuck you too, asshole. Like, damn, wasn't that deep. You could have literally just said no and I would have left it at that, but all right. So on the bus on the way home that day, I go up to Elliot and I'm like, hey, I was thinking that maybe we could just FaceTime and work on this project. Like, here's my number, blah, 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 this, that, and the next. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. So we exchanged numbers, and that day after school, I FaceTime him and we start working on the project, and we got most of it done that same day. But the issue is that we got our presentation done, but we had to make a model of the different phases of the moon. So then he was like, hey, my mom said if you want to come over my house, we could go to the store, get some supplies, and work on the project here at my house. And I was like, okay, sure, we can do that, whatever. So I asked my mom if I can go over there, and my mom said only if she could also come over to meet his parents, because my parents were extremely overprotective of me. I had 2 older sisters, and they used to never be overprotective the way that they are now, but one of my older sisters, Claire, had went over one of her friend's houses whenever she was 13, so about my age, and when she slept over there, her friend's older brother had SA'd her in the middle of the night. So yeah, fast forward the next day at school. After school, I go home, and the day that I asked my mom, I had given my mom his parents' phone number. So my mom had texted his mom and said like, hey, you know, why don't we all have dinner together, blah, 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 this, that, and the next. So that night at around 7:30, we went over to his house and we had dinner with him and his family, which was like super awkward. Not awkward between my parents and his parents, but between him and I, because we were just like, didn't know what to do or talk about. So yeah. Anyways, finally, dinner's over. My parents say that I can start going over to his house to work on this project. So for the next 3 weeks, that's what I did. And honestly, he wasn't that mean or that bad, you know? Like, I thought that he was gonna be super douchebaggy and just really mean like he had been to me over the past few years since that whole debacle in 5th grade. But no, anytime that I came over, he would ask me if I wanted anything to eat, or, well, I guess actually just being a good host. So yeah, just being a good host, I guess. So fast forward to the end of the 3 weeks in school, him and I, we get done with our project and we got an A on it, and now school is out. But even though school was out, him and I kept hanging out with each other. Like, we would ride our bikes together to the mall, and we would go to the movie theaters, just a lot of fun stuff. And we both met each other's best friends. We started hanging out as a whole group together, which was super fun. Well, then finally, August of 2022, like a week before we started high school, he had written me a letter and left it in my mailbox. And my mom calls me down and she's like, honey, you have a letter from Elliot, blah, blah, blah. And then I come down and I was super just confused because I'm like, okay, why didn't dude just text me? You know, whatever. I open the letter and it says, I just want to tell you that I've had a lot of fun this summer and I really like you and I wanted to know if you'll be my girlfriend. And I thought that that was literally the cutest thing ever. So I go upstairs, I call him and I'm like, yeah, I'll be your girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. I really like you too, this, that, and the next. So him and I, we take a cute picture together and we change our Instagram pictures. We put each other in our bios. We thought we were so fucking cute. But let me tell you guys something, okay? Starting a relationship before you go into high school, or even before you go into college, especially when y'all aren't going to the same college, is literally like a death sentence for your relationship. Yeah, it is. It's really like a death sentence for your relationship, honestly. Because listen, if you've ever watched Love Island, you know what Casa Amor is, okay? That is what high school is like for a brand new relationship. You know, when they're in their couples and then they like each other and then bam, they go off to Casa Amor and they're surrounded by all these new people and they have to decide whether they're gonna stay loyal to the person they originally liked or they're gonna fuck around with these new people and find out. Yeah, well, that's what high school is like for a new relationship. You might think that you guys are in this together, but then you guys get into high school and bam, there's new people everywhere. And yeah, hopefully y'all get the point of what I was just saying. So yeah, we started dating a week before high school started. Fast forward to high school. The first day, everything went well. We sat together on the bus going to school and we sat together on the way home. And then the next day, while I'm getting ready for school, I get a text from him saying, we need to talk on the bus. And I'm like, okay, what the fuck is going on? Honestly, I wasn't that worried. Like, I wasn't expecting this to be like a crazy talk or anything. I just thought that he was gonna, I don't even know, but I wasn't expecting a breakup. So, you know, we're all standing at the bus stop and he's not talking to me or anything. He's just standing there on his phone. So I'm going on my phone and I look on Instagram and I see that he took our pictures down on Instagram and he doesn't have me in his bio anymore. And I'm like, okay, what the fuck just happened? Like, what is going on? So, you know, now I'm a little bit worried. So we get onto the bus and he comes and sits next to me. And at first he's like, hey, like, you know, how was your morning? And I'm like, it's been okay. How was yours? And he's like, it's been okay, I don't really know. And I'm like, what's wrong? And he's like, well, I just think that honestly, I know that we just started dating like a week ago, but after yesterday, I realized how difficult high school is gonna be and how much focus I need to put into it. And I just think that being in a relationship right now isn't a good thing because I don't know how to balance school with a relationship. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he was like, but we can still be friends though, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. And he's like, okay, great. And then he gets up out of the seat and goes and sits with some girl in the front of the bus. So yeah, that was upsetting. You know what I truly think caused the breakup, to be honest? I think that it was the fact that him and I didn't have any classes together at all, because now instead of school putting you in the same classes as somebody that you have the same last name with, they were putting you in classes based on how advanced you were in certain subjects and how smart you actually were. Now, Elliot wasn't dumb, but he wasn't advanced, so he was just in the regular classes. But me, on the other hand, I had a lot of AP classes because I was more advanced. So yeah, I think that's really what kind of effed us, because we weren't spending any time together in school like we had been before, even though we really never took advantage of the fact that we sat next to each other in school. You guys hopefully get what I mean. So yeah, we broke up. That's really all there is to that. But you want to know what's really funny? After he broke up with me and went and sat next to that girl in the front of the bus, it just really made me think of every time that my older sisters had told me that men are trash. Like, that's all I could think of. I was like, damn, they really are trash. They really are assholes. They really do lie. Like, fuck. When he went to the front of the bus and sat by that one girl, I did cry. Like, I let out a few tears, but obviously I wasn't gonna make too much of a big deal because I didn't want to seem like I was obsessed with him, considering we had only been dating for a week. Even though I don't really think that that matters, because considering the fact that we spent the whole summer together, I don't think that I was being overdramatic. But you know, everybody else would have thought that I was being overdramatic. They would have been like, why are you so upset? Like, you only dated him for literally like 2 days, blah, 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 blah. Well then, fast forward to that night. I get a follow request from some girl named Valerie, and I'm looking through her page and I realize that she is a junior in my school. Not only that, but she is the girl that Elliot went and sat next to that morning. So whatever, I let her follow me, and then she had posted something on her story, so I go to look at her story. I didn't expect to see anything crazy on there. I see that she posted a picture of her with her head laying on Elliot's shoulder and him kissing her on the head. And I'm like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So I go and I call my best friend Kate, and I'm like, dude, you gotta see this. And she's like, what happened? And she knows everything, obviously, because this is my best friend and I tell her literally everything. So she knows that Elliot had just broken up with me that morning and that he went and sat next to some girl and this, that, and the next and whatever. So I'm like, look up this girl's Instagram. She's public, and look what she just posted on her story. And so she goes and she searches this girl up, and she's like, I can't find her. I think that she blocked me. And I'm like, what the fuck? So then I go and I'm like, okay, like, let me screen share real quick. So I start screen sharing and I go on Instagram and I go and look in like my recent following, and she's not there. And I'm like, what the fuck? So then, of course, my best friend, being literally the crazy bitch that I love, she's like, hold on, let me go on my burner account. And I'm like, okay, go on the burner account. And she's like, oh my god. She was like, this girl's so weird. And I'm like, yeah, especially because she followed me and then she blocked me after I saw her story. And she's like, yeah, dude, this girl is really fucking weird. And why is she a junior getting with a freshman? And I'm like, bitch, I don't know. It is fucking weird. So from August 24th to October 9th, I had basically been getting harassed by this girl. Oh, and what do I mean by getting harassed by her? I mean, literally every single fucking day on the bus, she would make sure to sit with Elliot either in the seat in front of me or behind me or literally directly across from me. Like, there was one day where I literally moved seats because they were sitting right across from me, and instead of her just staying in the seat that she was, they moved up in the bus to the seat behind me so I could hear them talking. Yeah, I did think it was funny though, because the one day my best friend was on the bus, and listen, y'all, when I tell you that Kate is extremely unhinged, like, she does not give a fuck at all. Like, she does not care. So she was coming over my house that day after school to spend the night, and while we were on the bus, I sat in one seat and Kate sat in the one across from me, and we were talking back and forth. And then Elliot, and by the way, this girl's name is Valerie. Elliot and Valerie get on the bus, and Valerie goes up to Kate and she's like, can you move over one seat? And she's like, no. And she was like, well, you guys are taking up 2 seats and I just don't think it's necessary. And Kate was like, okay, well then why don't you sit somewhere else? So then Valerie rolls her eyes and she sits in the seat with Elliot in front of us. And by the way, Elliot wasn't really a part of this weird shit. He was always late to the bus in the morning and to go home. So anywhere that he saw her sitting, he went and he would just sit there. Well, this particular day, we were all on the bus and Kate, since her and I were sitting in opposite seats, she starts talking really, really loud. And she goes and she's like, I just think that some girls are so fucking weird. And I'm like, how so? And she's like, well, I mean, think about it. Like, you're a junior in high school and you're dating a freshman and you're also obsessed with his ex-girlfriend that's literally 3 years younger than you. It's giving you're fucking weird. And she was like, but that's just me personally, in my opinion. And I sit there and I'm looking at her and I'm just like, girl, like, my best friend did not play about me. Like, don't fuck with her because she really does not play about me. She knows that I won't say anything, so yeah. Anyways, so then girly Valerie pokes her head over the seat and she's like, I know you guys are talking about me. And Kate goes, good. I'm glad you heard it because honestly, I was gonna relay the message if you didn't. And then she goes and she's like, you guys are just so childish. Like, it's actually hilarious. And then Kate was like, bitch, you're weird. Like, you literally can't get with anybody your own age, so you go after little boys. You look like a pedophile. And then Elliot jumps in and he's like, can you guys fucking stop, blah, 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 blah. You know, just accept the fact that I didn't want to be with you instead of having your weird ass best friend start shit with my girlfriend. And this is the first time that Elliot had said one word to me since this whole thing, which was a few weeks before this whole bus incident. So then Kate goes and she's like, bro, nobody was talking to you. You're ugly as hell. Shut the fuck up and sit down. So after this whole bus incident, like I said, the harassing went on from August something to October 9th. And why did it stop, you may ask? Oh, another part of the harassing me was requesting to follow me whenever she would post something of her and Elliot, and then blocking me right after she would post something of them. And then I blocked her. So then she started having her friends repost pictures of them being like, goals, so cute, oh my gosh, I want something like this one day. Guys, I think that I blocked like 30 people from my school because of this hoe. Like, it was just embarrassing. Like, you're obsessed with a freshman who dated a guy that you're dating for a week. Clearly, ho, see some competition there. Anyways, so everything completely stopped when I met a boy named Oliver. Ladies, I know you may think that I'm being over dramatic whenever I tell you that this boy was literally the boy that every girl dreams of, but I promise you, I wish I was over exaggerating. Like, trust me, I wish I was, okay? I met him in my AP biology class and we exchanged numbers and then we started talking and getting to know each other a lot. And my school's homecoming was supposed to be in early October, but some kid had came to school with a loaded you-know-what. And in the afternoon, when everybody was getting onto the buses, this kid shot this other kid who had been bullying him. The other kid didn't pass away, but he is in a wheelchair now because he was like shot in the spine and like just can't walk for the rest of his life. So that's really sad. But yeah, so they postponed our homecoming to the middle of November instead, like right before Thanksgiving break. And the reason why they didn't postpone it just until a little bit later into October was because that whole week other kids had gotten ideas to send bomb threats to the school. Like, we literally had a lockdown every single day, which was really effing annoying, but what can you do? Nothing. Anyway, so like I said about me and Oliver, we started getting to know each other and he knew the whole situation about Valerie and Elliot, like with them harassing me on the bus, which by the way, he was a sophomore. Once I had told him about this, he was like, oh, well, why don't I just start picking you up in the morning and driving you home after school? And I'm like, that could work, you know, yes, please. And so he was like, okay, yeah, like I'll just start picking you up in the morning and then, you know, you don't live too far from me, so I'll just drop you off after school as well. So like a week after him and I getting to know each other is whenever he offered to start driving me to and from school. But because my parents were super overprotective, I didn't want him to pick me up at my house because I didn't even know if this kid and I were going to become anything more than friends. So I just told him to come and pick me up at the bus stop so that way my parents wouldn't see and they wouldn't be like, who is that? Me, 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 me. Like, I just didn't need that in my life right now. So in the morning, he comes to the bus stop and he picks me up. And whenever he picked me up, he literally got out of his car, came over to my door, like the passenger side door, opened the door for me to get in the car. Yeah, very much a gentleman. I was like, okay. okay, Oliver, I see you. Like, period. Well then, I kid you not even 10 minutes after Oliver had picked me up, I get a message from Elliot saying, who was that? And I just didn't respond because fuck you. So then right after I didn't respond, I get another message from Elliot saying, and why didn't he just pick you up at your house? And then I get another message saying, if you're trying to make me jealous, it's not gonna work. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, dude, like not everything is about you. Like actually, you're so full of yourself that you think that everybody cares about everything that you do. Like nobody gives a fuck. You're so full of yourself. It's embarrassing. Hello? Like, worry about your fucking elderly girlfriend who's obsessed with me. No offense to anybody who's in their fucking junior year of high school. I'm just saying that because this bitch is literally so annoying. Anyway, so fast forward like 2 days later, my bestie, Kate, and I were in the bathroom before class started and we were gossiping, of course. And then she looks at me and she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? And she's like, look at this. And I look at her phone and it says, Valerie has requested to follow you. And I'm like, oh my God, dude. And then she goes, yeah, I guess your stalker wants us to look at her story. And I'm like, okay, whatever, look at it. What does it say? And she's like, what the fuck? Because this girl Valerie had posted on her story a picture of her and Elliot. And she's like, this is why I don't open my heart up to people. I always end up getting hurt. This is just a reminder of why I need to focus on myself and boss up, blah, blah, blah. So this is a PSA. Yes, Elliot and I did break up and no, I don't want to talk about it. So anybody who brings it up to me today is going to be punched in the face if you do. And this was like a picture of her and Elliot kissing with like a broken heart emoji and like the sad emoji. And I'm like, bitch, like, I'm sorry, but here's my thing. If a boy that I'm dating breaks up with me, right? I'm not posting that shit on the fucking internet for other bitches to see and be like, ooh, my turn to slide in. Like, fuck no, fuck no. So this bitch is dumb. Like, why would you do that to yourself, honey? So then, as I told you guys before, my best friend Kate has no filter and she's very unhinged. So she was like, you know what? I'm gonna post something about this bitch. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, please don't post anything crazy. And she's like, no, I'm not going to. She was like, but I am posting something. And I was like, okay, whatever, whatever. Do what you think necessary. So she posts on her story, bitches really air out their dirty laundry thinking people actually give a fuck. Like, babe, you literally dated a freshman, harassed his ex-girlfriend, your guys' whole relationship, and you're shocked that it didn't work. Go get some fucking therapy. And then she puts, I'm tired of these weird ass hoes. And I thought that this was funny because my best friend is actually fucking hilarious. And it was funny, but I wasn't with her whenever she posted this. I had to get to my class because my teacher was super strict on if you're not in class by the time the bell rings, the door's getting locked and you gotta go down to the principal's office. So she was the one who posted the story. I wasn't there. Well, then Valerie, I guess, went to the dean because all of a sudden, me, Kate, and Valerie are all sitting in the dean's office and the dean is like talking to Kate, telling her to take the story down, blah, blah, blah. And then the dean looks at me and she's like, so what's your part in this? And I was like, honestly, I don't even know. I was like, I wasn't even around whenever this story was posted. And Valerie was like, yes, she was. Like, I heard them talking in the bathroom about me, which, what a little creep, guys. Like, this girl was really starting to fucking get on my nerves. Like, mind your business, ho. So the dean tried giving me detention and I was like, no, actually, you can call my teacher. I was literally in class whenever this whole thing happened. So my teacher came down and he was like, yeah, she was present in my class, blah, blah, blah. Didn't go to the bathroom the whole class, so she wouldn't have been able to write this, da 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 da, you know, whatever, whatever. So then Valerie gets in trouble for trying to get me in trouble, thank God. And Kate got detention for writing this. But I thought that it was super funny because as we were all walking out of the dean's office, Valerie was still sitting there and she was like, you know, Valerie, if you don't want people talking about your life, maybe stop posting about it on the internet. And I'm like, ah ha 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 ha, just what my best friend said, stop airing out your dirty laundry, hoe. So the same day that him and Valerie broke up, I get a text from Elliot after school that day saying, hey, I just wanted to apologize for Valerie and I didn't know that she was doing all that shit to you, and I'm sorry that I broke up with you and then just immediately started dating her and not thinking about your feelings, da da da, this, that, and the next. And I know you guys are probably thinking, bitch, if you forgive this motherfucker, listen, I did forgive him, so fuck off. Anyways, so fast forward to the next day, Oliver says that he can't drive me home from school, so I go on the bus and I sit with Elliot, and Elliot and I are just catching up, and he was being super sweet to me, and Valerie, fucking creep, sat her ass in the seat right across from us again. And I'm like, bro, like this girl is so awkward and so crazy. Like, stop, get a life, dude. So yeah, anyways, we get to our stop, and when we get there, I look out the window and I see Oliver standing there holding up a sign with my two sisters. One of them is recording and the other one is holding this huge stuffed bear, and I see this like heart-shaped box of roses sitting on his car, and I'm like, what the because this is how I deserve to be treated, period. So as I'm walking off the bus, Valerie's behind me and Elliot's in front of me, and I hear Valerie from behind me say, you gotta be fucking kidding me. But I just ignore her and I walk my ass over to Oliver and my sisters, and he's like, will you go to homecoming with me? And I'm like, yes, blah, 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 like, this is so sweet, thank you so much. And then all of a sudden, Valerie, as she's walking towards her house, turns around and she goes, I just want you to know that she was sitting on the bus with Elliot, flirting with him the whole time, so you look stupid right now. And I'm like, girl, like, you're so weird. Why don't you have a life? Like, go get a fucking life. You're weird. Ew. Like, bitches like this fucking disturb me. So then one of my sisters goes, go home, you fucking weirdo. And Oliver didn't even ask me if what she was saying was true because he didn't care. He was only worried about me. So per. And honestly, I wasn't flirting with Elliot. She was just pissed off that Elliot was like telling me that I look super good today and blah, 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 this, that, and the next, just being a kiss ass. Now, after this, we all went back to my house and I finally introduced him to my parents. And I guess that he saw one of my Instagram pictures with my sisters and he had DM'd them on Instagram, and he asked them, one, if he could take me to homecoming, and two, if they would help him ask me and stuff, which I thought was super sweet. So my parents love him, which per. And that same night, I get a text message from E saying, hey, I'm super happy for you. Oliver seems like such a great guy and I hope that he treats you right. And I'm like sitting there, and you want to know what's going through my head, guys? Listen, I know that I should not want anything to do with Elliot, okay? I know that I should be like, yep, that's dead and done, fucking wash my hands of that whole situation, but I still had a soft spot for him. Why? I don't know. Now, I feel like in every girl's life, there has been a situation where she's torn between two guys. Because one of them, the chemistry is just undeniable. It can't be matched by any other person in this world. But she also knows that they low-key aren't good for each other. And then there's the other guy, where it's like, you know that he's a really good guy. He treats you the way that you deserve to be treated. And you know this is the guy that you should want to be with. But for some reason, you still just can't shake this feeling that you and the other guy are meant to be together. Yeah, that's where I was right now. Because even though Oliver was a really good guy and I really liked him, he was super sweet, I just still wanted the cliche scene in the movie to happen where Elliot would just be like, I know that he asked you to homecoming, but I really like you and I miss you, and I know that it should be me and you who are together. I was stupid before, I didn't realize it, blah, 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 blah. But if we're being honest, we were literally freshmen in high school and 15 years old. So, well, he was 15, I was 14. But yeah, that's where I was with my feelings and everything. So Oliver and I, we go to homecoming and we had an amazing time. Like, he took me to a super nice dinner before, and then we went to homecoming, we left early, and we went to this club that his brother worked at, which was 21 and over. But because his brother worked there, we were able to get in, and we went with all of his friends. He introduced me to everybody. And this is how I could tell that he was a really good guy, because Kate texted me and she's like, hey, super annoyed, my date ditched me. And this was like at 11:30 after homecoming had just ended. And I was like, oh, you know, like, I'm out with blah, blah, blah. And then I told him, and he was like, oh, I'll just get her an Uber here. So he literally Ubered Kate to the club. Yeah. And it was like a $60 Uber. So I thought that was extremely sweet. And this honestly changed my opinion of Oliver too, because like, he always seemed like such a good boy, but he got blackout drunk that night. And you know, we all drank and we're having a really good time, but then of course I find myself thinking about what Elliot's doing and if he's alone or with another girl. And it really pissed me off that I was thinking like this, but I couldn't help it. The heart wants what it wants, sadly. So throughout the next year, Oliver and I, we are in a relationship and he's continuing to treat me amazing. But Elliot and I were getting closer during the summertime especially, we started sneaking over each other's houses. Not to do anything with each other, but mainly because, yeah, we just became friends again. And, you know, I don't really know what to say other than that. I mean, there was the occasional cuddling and falling asleep, laying next to each other because we watched a movie. And listen guys, there was nothing wrong with Oliver. He was still perfect. It was just that, I don't know, I did feel bad low-key because I was like, fuck, I shouldn't be doing this to him. He doesn't deserve me sneaking around behind his back. But I just honestly couldn't help it. And I know that sounds like such a lame ass excuse, but like, I don't know. I just couldn't keep myself away from Elliot, and it was super annoying. Well, fast forward to August of 2022, my sister catches Elliot sneaking into my bedroom at the same time that she's also sneaking into the house. Yeah. Oh yeah. So then the next morning, she comes into my room and she's like, so what was that? And I'm like trying to play it off, like, what are you talking about? And she's like, dude, I saw him sneak into your room. I saw you open the window and let him into your room. Like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, I'm not cheating on Oliver. Like, him and I have just been hanging out and I just still have feelings for him. And the nice thing about my sisters is that they don't judge me for anything really. You know, they're always just there to give me advice and yeah, give me the best advice that they can give to me. And so my sister, she's like, okay, well, I understand that you still have feelings for him, but I think that you should break up with Oliver until you figure out what your feelings are. And she was like, and I'm only saying that because say he catches you and Elliot together and then you figure out that you and Elliot weren't gonna work, and then you end up wanting him back, it's gonna be way harder to get back with him once he finds out that you cheated on him, because then you guys are gonna have to rebuild trust. So just think about it. Obviously I didn't want to hear this, but I knew that she was right, so I sat on this for a good 5 months. Yeah, I know, not a good person. And it's crazy how some things work, because literally the day that I was going to break things off with him, because Elliot told me that he wanted to see where things would go between us two. It wasn't like I was just going out on a whim here hoping that Elliot would feel the same way that I felt about him. No, not at all. Elliot liked me too, so I wanted to see if things would work out between us. So yeah, like I said, the day that I was going to tell Oliver, like, and I was gonna break up with him, Valerie already beat me to it. Because what did this bitch do? Well, see, Valerie lives behind me, and whenever I was sneaking Elliot in the one night, I guess she took a video and she had sent it to no other than my man, Oliver. Yeah, she sent it to Oliver. And in the middle of the day, I get a text from Oliver, and it's a screenshot of her DM to him, and it's Elliot sneaking through my window. So now I'm like, oh fuck, here we go. This is not okay. This is fucked. This is very, 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 very fucked. And then he texts me after and he's like, we need to talk. So at the end of the day that day, I go to his car and he's like, so are you cheating on me with Elliot? And I'm like, no, I'm not. That's not at all what's going on. I'm like, if I'm being honest, Elliot and I, we rekindled our friendship last year and he's just my friend. And he's like, okay, I believe you, but I don't ever want you two hanging out ever again. I'm like, okay. And he's like, okay, yeah, like I just need some time now, but you know, I believe you. And I'm like, okay, I understand. So then I go to get out of the car and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you said you need time, so I was giving you space. I'll just take the bus home. And he's like, no. He was like, just because I need space doesn't mean that I'm gonna be a bad boyfriend. He was like, I'm gonna take you home. And that's whenever I looked at him and I was like, honestly, I was like, I think that I need time as well, because if we're gonna be in a relationship, you need to trust me. And the fact that you don't trust me enough to be friends with a guy, like, I don't know, that's just not, I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm not trusted. And then he's like, well, no, I do trust you, like, you guys can be friends. And I'm like, no, what you said earlier doesn't, it like completely contradicts what you just said. And I was like, so I think that you should take some time. I think that I should take some time and we should just figure out what we want. And then I leave the car and yeah. So after this, I would say a week goes by before Elliot and I start dating. And no, we just didn't publicly come out and start dating. No, we were very much on the DL because we didn't want to have to deal with Valerie and Oliver. Oliver was still blowing up my phone. Valerie was just still a psycho bitch. And us dating on the DL literally just meant that like we were doing everything that we were doing during the summertime whenever we would sneak over each other's houses. It's just that we weren't like, we were able to be more romantic with each other now. We were able to make out, kiss, hold hands, blah, 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 all this and that. During this time, I did miss Oliver, but like in a way of Oliver and I, he used to take me on dates. He romanticized our relationship way more than Elliot did. But then again, I like thought to myself, okay, well, you know, Elliot and I, we're in our sophomore year of high school. Oliver's a junior. Oliver is just more mature in general. So now, let's fast forward to Valentine's Day. Elliot and I, we had been talking / dating for the past like 2 or 3 weeks, okay? And the week before Valentine's Day, we had been talking about the fact that I was still a virgin. Yes. Yeah, and he wasn't, obviously, but he was like, I want to be your first, blah, blah, blah. Like, I want to be your first for everything. I want to make it super special. And I thought this was super sweet. I was like, aw, so sweet. So now Valentine's Day comes upon us. Valentine's Day and my birthday. He takes me out to eat at this restaurant. And while we're sitting there eating, he's telling me to hurry up. Like, he is rushing me to hurry up and eat. And he's like, I want to get home so we can finally do the nasty. Like, I can't believe you've never done it before, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, okay, but like, dude, you're not even making it special. Like, you're rushing me to hurry up and finish my meal so that way we can go to your bedroom at your house and do it. Like, be so for real. So he hurries me up, and dinner literally, y'all, when I tell you, we were at dinner for like 35 minutes and the first 20 minutes was waiting for our food. Yeah. So we get into the car and I'm like, why would you rush me? He was like, well, because like I just want to get home, like I'm excited. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not even making it seem like this is about Valentine's Day or my birthday at all. You're making it seem like this is all revolved around us doing it. And then he goes, I'm sorry, we don't have to. Like, I never meant to make you feel like that. I always ruin everything. I completely get if you don't want to be with me now, this, that, and the next. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I have to console him now. I'm like, no, you didn't ruin anything. I know that you're excited, but this is more than just about us doing the nasty. Like, it's my birthday, it's Valentine's Day, it's time for us to celebrate each other, being together. And then he goes, and yeah, what better way to do that than us doing the nasty? And I was like, yeah, okay. So we go to his house and he's like, oh, by the way, my parents aren't home. And I'm like, ooh, yay, so fucking fun. Like, I love that for me. Not really. So we go into his bedroom, we lay on his bed, and we start making out. And y'all, I'm gonna put a quick trigger warning in here for SA. If you don't want to hear about it, you can just skip to this part of the video. Eventually, we both remove our clothing, and then he was being extremely aggressive. Like, he literally bit me. Yes, he bit me. And then I told him that I didn't want to anymore, and I told him to stop and get off of me, and he didn't. So I basically got graped. Yeah, and then what's even worse is afterwards, he went into the bathroom, and then he came back with his phone in his hand, and he was like staring at his phone, and he leaned against the doorway, and he was like, so like, you gotta leave. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, like, you need to put on your clothes and you gotta dip. I gotta go somewhere. And y'all, like, when I tell you, like, my heart sank, I literally, like, ringing in my ears, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I'm like, wait, like, this isn't real. And so I'm grabbing my clothes, and he's like, can you hurry the fuck up? Like, did you not hear me? I have places to go. Get your fucking clothes on, get out. So I hurry up and I get all my stuff on, and then I'm walking home, and while I'm walking home, he texts me, yo, this just isn't gonna work with us. And can you bring my hoodie to the bus stop tomorrow? And I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? So, oh yeah, and then I can't forget the text about, by the way, you ruined my sheets, so can you also send me $20? Yeah. So after this, I call Oliver, and I'm like bawling my eyes out, and he comes and he picks me up, and I tell him what happened, and he ended up convincing me to go to the hospital, so I did, which was fucking traumatic in and of itself. And then my sisters and my mom showed up, and I didn't even realize how like bruised and scratched up I was. Like I had a lot of scratches on me. I had like some bite marks as well, but I didn't want to press charges or anything. Like I just didn't want to sit there and be interrogated and invalidated by people who don't know how traumatic that was for me. So yeah, Oliver and I are still together to this day, and even though I had put him through that stuff, he has never treated me any different than he did the first day we started dating. And as for Elliot, he got arrested and he's in jail because they caught him with a fuck ton of LSD and he was selling it in school. So yeah, I don't really know if you call it jail or a juvenile detention center, one of those two, but yeah. So that was my first time gone wrong on my birthday and Valentine's Day.